Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Logan Bourandas, and alongside Ethan Ellis and Juan Mendez. As we head into the second half of the NFL season, many problems continue to trouble sports fans in the fantasy football world, with injuries and COVID-19 still sidelining players every week. Producing a healthy roster is more difficult than ever. And as much as I would love to pitch an opinion on this, my 3-5 record in a certain sports night league suggests that I should just leave the opinion to my lovely analysts. So let's start with you, Ethan. Let's talk about the James Robinson of your fantasy football leagues. Who has been a guy that's been the most surprising for your teams throughout these first 9 weeks?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Cordarrelle Patterson on this one. You know, he comes to the Falcons this year, and I'm not sure if he was even going to be their RB1. And then in week 2, he goes off, and at that point, it just becomes a mad scramble to get him on your roster. I was lucky enough to get him on my roster in 2 or so leagues, and he's been paying off every week. He's averaging almost 19 points a week. He's ranked 6th by ESPN in his position. And it's not only that he's getting rushing touchdowns, he is a dual threat running back. He is able to get those receiving touchdowns, and it's really helping to put his numbers up. He's averaging almost 19 points a week. He's ranked 6th by ESPN in his position, and he's really going to pay off for all of those who added him in fantasy.
Absolutely. I had to pick him up as well. He's a great selection. And another running back, and the person that I selected is going to be Joe Mixon, who a lot of people last year really wanted to avoid him. He was in that conversation with Kenyon Drake, who was not too consistent for what you wanted to have. But now he's number 4, and he's the second most in carries, right behind King Henry. So that already says a lot. His performance has been incredible. He dropped almost 30 points last week, and he's going to continue to do so in a team that also has 3 of the best young receivers in the league. So Joe Mixon is somebody that is doing a fantastic job and will continue to do so. And if you wanted to put that faith in him in the beginning, and you did, then I congratulate you, because that is a great selection, Joe Mixon.
So we talked about the most surprising players in our league. What about the most disappointing? Think Kansas City Chiefs offense, but just one player. Who has been a guy that you drafted high and they haven't lived up to expectations?
Well, a person that fits that definition perfectly has to be Allen Robinson, unfortunately. Somebody that you would draft probably 2nd, 3rd, and it's a guy that you expect him to have huge volume, because last year he was 3rd in targets, but he was 4th in the most routes ran. So just by that, you see, okay, huge volume. I'm expecting a lot from this guy. He's going to be at least my wide receiver 2. But this year he has not been there at all. He's only had 1 game where he was above 10.4 points in PPR leagues, and that was when he got his only touchdown. So that could be explained by the quarterback issues, but that could also be explained by the Bears overall just having a complete shift to running. And now they have they do the least passing plays in the entire league. And that has a lot to say for Allen Robinson and those stats. So it is unfortunate to see that by Allen Robinson.
Yeah, for me, this one's kind of a double whammy as a Giants fan and a Penn State fan, but it's got to be Saquon Barkley. You know, before this year, everyone was hyping him up. Everyone was saying it's going to be him or Dak Prescott for Comeback Player of the Year. And then what does he do? He underperforms the first few weeks, has a decent couple of weeks, then gets injured week 5 at Dallas in a freak injury. He just steps on someone's shoe and screws his ankle over. But I drafted him in 2 or 3 of my leagues, and it's hurt me each and every week. You know, he hasn't played since week 5, and it's not good for any fantasy managers. So he's really been a huge disappointment for just about everyone this year, and that comeback year isn't going to happen for him this year, as much as it pains me to say.
2 former Nittany Lions making the list there, but like my 3-5 fantasy football team, there's still several weeks for fantasy owners to turn things around, but they need to make the right move to get things started. Ethan, who is one trade target that fantasy owners should be looking out for?
Yeah, this is a pretty easy one. It's Brandon Cooks. You know, he has his starting quarterback back with Tyrod Taylor come back from his hamstring injury. And he's a really underrated player in my books, and I think you're going to be able to get a pretty good deal for him. You're going to be able to trade him for almost nothing because people think he plays for the Texans, but he's got a solid quarterback behind him. He's averaging almost 14 points a week. I think he's going to be someone you're going to want to pick up if you're in desperate need of a wide receiver. He's going to get you the points. He's going to take you places.
He is a good one. He's definitely a good choice in wide receiver. And somebody that I have that is in a similar position as well, that is definitely trending up, is going to be Keenan Allen, who is already a great receiver, but a lot of his performances were shadowed by Mike Williams at the beginning of the season because he exploded. He was the high ratio guy, scoring over 20 points every game, and Keenan Allen a little bit around the 10 range in PPR. But now Justin Herbert decided this is the guy that I want if I want to win, if I want to rely and get first downs. This is the guy that I have to give the ball, and he has shown that. This player is incredible, always been there in the Chargers, and he keeps performing week to week, putting a great average. He's not, the thing is, you want to trade for him because he's not somebody that you're like, wow, and this guy is locked in my team. I definitely want him moving on. He's a guy that you could probably trade away. Some people might be comfortable with that, but if you want Keenan Allen, you should go and get him because if you need a receiver, if you need consistency, you have to go for him. And now, just in case to throw another name out there, somebody that you want that is really similar, very consistent, a little bit less in terms of numbers, but also trending up, has to be Hunter Renfrow because Derek Carr loves him. He's reliable again. His target share is now only going to be mainly with Darren Waller, them two in that offense. So Hunter Renfrow, who is going to be a little bit easier to acquire than Keenan Allen, is also a great option for you fantasy owners.
All three wide receivers been very consistent on a week-by-week basis. We'll see how those work out. Only time will tell what kind of impact those players can have on fantasy lineups for the rest of the season. That's going to wrap things up for this week's fantasy football segment on Penn State Sports Night. For Ethan Ellis and Juan Mendez, I'm Logan Bourandas, and have a great night.
Thank you for watching this edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also, follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.